How long did it take you to reach a professional level in comedy? What you would consider? I know that's a kind of a gray line, but
well, I think being so young to start with hinders you a little bit, like we were talking about with the life experience thing.
Although it sounds like for your first set you used something that was very relevant to that time.
Yeah.
And culture, so it was.
Yeah. So yeah, it does. I was able. I did like a lot of self-deprecation stuff. I did a lot less observational stuff.
Yeah.
Now I'm more like. Now I just talk about my life and stuff a lot more. I do some observational stuff, but anyway, what were we talking about?
How long did it take you to get where you
to
consider
level.
yourself professional? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sort of works like this. You start doing the open mics, and then you get to where you're like, oh, like the guy that's closing out the open mic, or like the guy that's, like always does consistently well. And then, in most clubs, like Idiot Box is a little different because they operate on a little different format than most clubs. It's more like a local indie club rather than, like these clubs where they book like a headliner feature and a host every weekend.
Yeah.
But usually, like, you start doing one of the open mics, and then you might get offered a chance to host, and then you host for a while. And I was hosting, I started hosting like 3 or 4 years in, and I started hosting at this club out in Clayton, North Carolina.
Yeah, I know where Clayton is. Yeah.
But it was owned by a guy that was a road comic, and he came off the road, and him and his wife opened up a comedy club, and they kind of gave me the chance to be the house MC there.
Did you move there, or were you living here?
I lived here,
so like
but I had a cousin that lived in Clayton.
Oh, okay.
So I would go every weekend for like probably about a year or so.
Yeah.
Or most weekends, I would like go down there for the weekend, and I would do the shows, not get paid anything, but I get valuable experience. Yeah, for sure. That helped me get to a different level. And then I started filling in for Chris when he was on the cruise ships at the Comedy Zone in Greensboro. And then when the Charlotte Comedy Zone opened in 2011, they had like one downtown, but they reopened it after a few years of it not being open, and they moved it to a different location. When that opened, I started being the MC there. I'd be there like once or twice a month. So
nice.
At a certain point, I had like 3 clubs that kind of wanted me to be like their house MC, So I had hosting work.
So you just rotated around.
Yeah, every week, no matter what.
That's awesome.
Like, so it worked out good for me. So I was able to get like a ton of valuable experience because when I was doing like the club in Clayton, the owner was letting me do 15, 20 minutes up front, which is too long for a host.
Right, yes, a lot.
20 minutes is way too much.
Feature set, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But
if it's going well though, people like it. So
so like probably about 2011 or so, I started trying to make a push to get my show together to where I could like get booked at, as a feature and stuff. And you had to have like a half hour at least. I've probably written hours of material, but as far as like stuff I would like do on stage right now, probably like hour and a half. But I've written hours and hours of stuff. Anyway, so I was trying to like make a push because you got to get like a video together so they can see you, send it out to bookers and stuff. So I put that video together. I was able to do that because of those opportunities I had. And then I started, I put together like a press kit and stuff and took it down to the Comedy Zone office down in Charlotte, and they started booking me, and then I was able to get in with other bookers and other clubs, and then it's kind of like a success breeds success thing. Like once other people start booking you, more people will want to book you. So
definitely.
Now, when you do your couple things, when you're emceeing a show, you do like a set up front, and then you can do like a joke before each comic comes out.
Usually when you host, you want to do, if you talk about the Comedy Zone in Greensboro, it's hosted so backwards and differently because of the precedent that Chris Wiles set.
Right.
So that's a different case. But so when I would host that room, I had it was very different.
Yeah.
But for most clubs, like standard, you would go out and first you want to kind of be a cheerleader a little bit, like, oh, like, welcome to the show. You want to be present.
Yep.
And then you seg into your material, and you do like 10 minutes or whatever, 10, 15 minutes, depends on where you're at. And then, you close out your material. You know, you do a couple announcements. You bring up the next comic. You know, if there's something notable, you might make a comment about it, but you don't want to do much time in between each
Right.
comment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's usually how hosting goes. You just, you know, I think it's one of the most important parts of the show.
I think
Sure. Yeah.
Because you're setting the tone for the rest of the
Right.
show. I think hosting and headlining are the two hardest parts of the show, because when you're hosting, you're the first thing they see.
Yep.
You set the tone. You're the host of the party. You're the ringmaster.
Yeah.
All right. When you're featuring, that's usually the cushiest, because all you got to do is be funny.
For 15 minutes.
Yeah. No, usually
20?
it's like half an hour.
Oh, half an hour,
Usually
okay.
most of the time, that's the standard. 20 to half an hour.
All right, is there usually just a feature and a headliner?
Yeah. Sometimes there's a guest
Yeah, I was
spot.
A
gonna
guest spot. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the 15-minute spot, right? The guest spot.
That's usually
10?
like a 5 to 10.
Oh,
It
5,
depends.
okay.
It depends on who's doing it. Like,
Right.
you know, if it's like a local professional, they'll probably do 10. But if it's like if it's like some kid that's just doing well at the open mic, it'll probably be like 5.
Right.
Yeah. And then, you know, in headlining, all the weight's on your shoulders. Like, you got to bring it.
Yeah.
Like, you got to kill it.
Keep the energy high.
Yeah, exactly.
You
like,
remember that guy that had the heads and he did the Galileo? He sung and
Oh, yeah.
he would pull.
Talk about Michael Mack.
Matt.
Yeah.
Yes, man. Yes. He slayed several times. He slayed there while I was there. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, he has a very interesting closer, man.
Yeah.
It's something else for sure.
So
Like,
No.
he literally makes his cock sing at the end of the show. not literally, but he has a cod piece, and it sings.
Oh,
He has it like
wow.
wired to his belt. He has like a puppet. It's like a puppet. It's a cod piece with like a little puppet on the front. It's
Weird. Yeah.
yeah, it's wild.
it slays.
Yeah,
Prop comedy.
yeah,
But yeah, no. You know the problem there. Chris ruined it for me at a bunch of other clubs though, because he killed it all the time. I went to other
Yeah.
clubs and I saw their host there, and I was just like,
yeah. Most of the time, I mean, hosting's kind of a lost art in comedy. I feel like, because
I felt like the hosts at some of these other clubs weren't hosts. They were just
Yeah.
somebody that gets up
A
and
lot
talks
of
in a mic
times-
in between people.
I mean, sometimes you go to a club and it's like a decent or a good local comic that might, you know, like in my case, like might just not be working on the road that week.
Right.
But then most clubs, though, it's like just an open micer who's been doing pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, and that can be interesting, because a lot of like people that are starting out doing comedy, you know, when you're doing these open mics, there's a lower expectation.
Right.
So it's like, it's people going like, oh, here's these people, they're trying to be funny. You know,
Right.
I paid $5 to get in here. You know, maybe someone will be funny, but like, it's like you go and see a show on the weekend. You know, it's like $20 a ticket or whatever. People are going there like, okay, fucker, make me laugh. So it's like, for a lot of people, like
Yeah.
when they first start
Yeah.
doing professional shows, hosting and stuff, it's like, it's a big mind fuck for them, because
Yeah.
they, you know, the expectation is so different. And I've seen people that just come off stage like, oh, this is my first week hosting. I've never hosted before. You got any advice? And then they'll come off stage and they're just sweating bullets. Yeah, because they're used to those jokes getting some chuckles or something. But, you know, at an open mic, they're like, oh, that's a little bit funny. But if you do it at a real show, they're like, you know, look, next.
That's funny.
So.
I feel like at the open mics and the Idiot Box, they're pretty. I mean, they're everybody's pretty honest. Like, if
Yeah.
they like it, they like it. If not, you know, like
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
very clear.
Especially now where it's just that's why I
comics,
say it's
yeah.
like it's a
But
better
for me, it's
gauge.
easier when the thing I like about the way it is now is, and even before when I first started, it was still mostly comics there, so it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And then, but when I get if I got a few chuckles at the open mics, when I did a mic and there was a lot of regular crowd there,
Yeah.
I get a lot of laughs, and I was like, oh, this is good. So to me, it's good. It's like swinging with a lot of bats.
Yeah.
And then you pick up the regular bat, and it's just super light.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a lot easier. So
Yeah.
it's like, for me now, I feel like it's way easier when I can perform in front of like a regular crowd,
Yeah.
because I'm used to performing
For
in front
sure.
of guys like you who are just brutal, man, and which is
Yeah.
good. I like it.
I try to make sure I laugh at everybody where they have a good joke, you know. Like,
Yeah.
You know, but like for a while that open mic was kind of functioning as a support group.
It
Still kind of does.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. But it's good. Like, if I have, maybe I tell 4 or 5 jokes while I'm up, I can tell the ones that are going to do well in front of a regular crowd.
Yeah.
Even if it's just with comics, you'll get like a couple of audible laughs.
Yeah.
But with a crowd, that would actually be a pretty
Yeah.
big roar, and it would keep the energy
Yeah.
So,
and that's why a lot of times, like a lot of these comics out of New York and LA end up becoming so strong is because, if you're at, if it's not so much anymore because I feel like Comedy Store's built up a lot more. But at one point, if you're going on at 1:30 in the morning at the Comedy Store, that's all it was. It was comics,
yeah.
you and other comics, and not just other comics, like other really good comics. So,
yeah. Have you performed there?
No, I haven't been out there. I want to go though.
What's the biggest club you've performed in?
The biggest, probably the Stardome in Birmingham, Alabama. It's like 500, 600 seats, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a massive comedy club. The Improv in Raleigh's also a pretty big one. It's like, I think they can seat 600 too.
Oh, nice.
But most big clubs.
And Good Nights up there is a good one too, right? It was about 200, 200 or 300?
Yeah, Good Nights is like 250-ish, I think, 300. Sucks what's happening about Good Nights. Apparently they're in talks to build apartment complexes.
Oh, is it that one?
Yeah.
I thought it was another one.
No. Yeah, apparently they're talking about demolishing Good Nights and moving it somewhere else.
Oh, man.
Which I think is... I hate that idea. Because like some of these comedy clubs, like if you go to them...
So much history there.
Dude, and it's the history, and it's like you'll be standing on a stage, and like I'll do some clubs, like the club in Little Rock, the Looney Bin there. Like if you go in the kitchen, the guy that's making the mozzarella sticks, he remembers when Dave Chappelle was featuring.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's cool.
Like they can, there's this guy that works there, like he's been there like 30 years, and he can tell you like all these stories about when Foxworthy used to come in, and all their, like Bill Hicks, lived there and stuff. Like,
wow.
Like, you're standing on the same stage that Bill Hicks was on, one of your idols. Like it's kind of like.
Which means if you're especially if you're headlining, that you've made it if you're doing that.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. In some sense of the word, yeah. It's, I think in a lot of these clubs that are just so old like that date back to like the heyday of stand-up comedy, like, your 80s and 90s when it was just a completely different business completely. Like it's like the energy from those roaring laughs are like soaked into the walls.
Yeah.
It's like the room itself has a special energy to it. I'm not one of these energy people, but it's like...
I know what you mean, though.
Yeah. There's something special about those places that
Yeah.
I don't think you can recreate by tearing it down and moving it across town.
Yeah, then it has that new feel.
Yeah, and Good Nights is one of those places where it's just such a legendary club where it's like...
Yeah.
I've never been huge into Good Nights. For whatever reason, I've
never been there. Yeah.
The club that I was in super well with. Like I've been on stage there a few times, but I never took the time to cultivate my presence there. But it's one of those clubs that like, in 1988, you'd be like, you'd be watching like Johnny Carson and, there's Jerry Seinfeld talking about doing Good Nights or whatever. It's such an iconic club, and it's like to build apartment complexes there. It's like,
well, like when they open the new location, though, you could be one of the first comics in the new location that's a big comic down the road for the new guys.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, sure, man.
Yeah. If not, you could rent you an apartment from the old place.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, I could become local.
Yeah, you can tap. Maybe you can tap into that.
I'll get the energy at home.
Yeah.
Like an Indian burial ground type thing.
So, who's the biggest act you've opened for?
Let's see. Biggest. Rob Schneider's one of the ones. I've done a bunch of people. They vary in fame, like Gilbert Gottfried, Adam Devine. That's who I worked with at Zany's.
Nice.
Like John Reap, Tom Green, Jamie Kennedy, Harry Spears. There's a bunch of
Lots of them, yeah.
And then there's like some that are like comedy famous, but are not really. But yeah,
Tom Green's really funny. He's a really funny stand-up.
He's a lot of fun to hang out with too. He's pretty
I'm
cool.
sure.
He's very just laid back and stuff. Like, yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he seems very real.